Today is a great, wonderful, amazing, incredible day, and I'll tell you why. Because it's Sweden Day. Swedish forest house tour. Bought a house in the middle of Sweden's wilderness? Without further ado, let's get into this reaction. Let's go.
Hello, hey, how's it going?
Hello.
My name's Philip and my ears are freezing. It's minus 2022. Minus 2022. It's minus 22 degrees right now.
Minus 22. I don't think I've ever felt anything so cold. Minus 22. What does that even feel like, Swedish people? You guys know. I don't. 22. I know what 22 degrees feels like when it's hot and it's summer, it's nice. Minus 22 is beyond cold. So let me know in the comment section below.
And in my last video, I said that me and my Sambo, Maria, we purchased our dream home in the middle of the remote, idyllic Swedish wilderness.
God. That home, did you see it?
And the house dream home.
That's gorgeous. Oh my God. That is stunning. He must be doing very well for himself. He looks very young. He purchased all of that house. Damn.
In the middle of the remote, idyllic Swedish wilderness. And the house is amazing. It's beautiful. It's rife with problems. This is our shed. This is our home. And
sorry, wait, hold up. He just said that's his shed.
Rife with problems.
That is a massive shed. Do you know what sheds look like in the UK? They're like boxes. That shed looks like a house.
This is our shed.
Jeez.
This is our home. And what you need to know about the home is that it's 189 square meters. So I apologize for calling it a cabin in my last video. It's not a cabin. It is the opposite of a cabin. And it set us back 1.3 million kronor, which is the equivalent of blah, 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 blah. Obviously, 1.3 million kronor, which is the equivalent of blah, 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 blah.
Wow, very affordable. Very affordable. 100 grand. I need to move to Sweden. I need to move into the wilderness in Sweden. I don't think there's anywhere in the UK where you can get anything that looks like that at that price. I am living in the wrong country. Guys, somebody, are you a real estate agent? Let me know. I don't have 100 grand, but like, if I did, maybe I'd move to Sweden.
Obviously, this is insanely cheap for a house of this size.
I do worry.
And of course, you can get way cheaper in Sweden, but you do pay serious compromises for the most part, either in the quality of the house or in the location. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a tour around our lovely home. I'm going to show you what you can get for 1.3 million kronor. I'm going to talk about the renovations that we plan on doing to the house. We've only lived here for a couple of months, so very few renovations have been done. And I'm going to give you some things that you need to know before you actually move to Sweden, some helpful tips and some things that, yeah, you just really should know. So yeah, let's go.
Where's he from? His accent, I'm really trying to place. His English is amazing. He sounds almost British. He sounds kind of British. If he's not British, I am like flawed. His English is insane. Is he Swedish? Anyways.
The first thing you notice when you get into the house is this McDonald's looking staircase. And some people really like it. Some people really hate it. And
I kind of like it. What do you guys think? I kind of like it a little bit. I don't know. Maybe, do you know what it is? Maybe change the wallpaper. I don't know if the wallpaper goes. That could be a feature. You know, like you have something that's so unique and featuresque in your house. I kind of like it in a weird kind of way. But then I'm not sure if I'm as adventurous enough to keep that in my house.
I'm in the latter category. I think it's absolutely gross. And as soon as I can change it, I will. But yeah, apart from that, it's a very nice looking landing. Very cozy if it was actually warm. And
it's very nice.
Yeah, so it's pretty decent. Here's something I don't trust. So the previous owner of the home has underfloor heating, and you'll understand why I'm skeptical of this. as we
Okay.
go on. I'm not going to show you what's in the drawer because it's an absolute pigsty, but it's basically our first water
Storage.
boiler and some electric stuff. So yeah, everything electric, the fuse box and everything, that's controlled in this room alongside the water boiler. Also, here's a framed picture of Keaton, our cat. Although it looks like a photo, it's actually not. It's a painting by my sister as a housewarming gift, and I think it's absolutely amazing. So it's the first thing you see when you get into the house. Thank you, Amy. Now, for the first year, we're going to have a very cold house because our chimney is not up and running. So, right now, it's cold outside and it's cold inside. So, this is the front room, and it looks a little something.
So nice. Oh man, 100,000. I need to move to Sweden. Obviously, there's repairs that need doing. I can tell already he's going to start going into how this needs repair, but as an actual property,
Like this.
Nice.
This is considered our warmest house. This is considered our warmest room in the house, which is not great because if I go to the thermometer here, well, it's either 7.8 or 9.5 degrees in this room, the warmest room. This is also the place where our plants have the best chance of surviving. Media loves plants, and winter isn't treating them well. But to be honest with you guys, I don't really know what this room was originally intended.
why is there an air conditioning in the room in Sweden, in a part of Sweden that is that cold? Why would you need an aircon unit?
Intended for. I mean, there is an amazing looking old stove in the corner of the room, so I can imagine it's a room that gets pretty cozy. Especially when we get the chimneys up and running, this room will be super warm. And on top of that, we also have a Luftvärme pump, air heating pump, which is a really common way to heat the house in Sweden, but not so much in England, at least in residential houses. I've seen it a few times in shops, but...
First of all, that's an air heating pump. Looks like an air con unit. Must be the same thing, but pumps out hot air. Pretty cool. Never seen one of those before. Pretty cool. Secondly, he said something about England. He is English. I thought he sounded English. He sounds English. Cool. So he's a Brit living in Sweden. Do you know what I like about he's I don't know, I think his girlfriend or wife must be Swedish because he is picking up a little bit of a Swedish twang to his English, which is really cute. Nice. Okay.
never really in actual houses. Now, right now, these windows are actually letting in quite a bit of air. They are double glazed, which is great. And they are, as far as we're aware, the original glass windows that came with the house back in 1904. At least that's what we think. The camera's not really picking it up, but the glass warps. Like, you don't see a crystal clear view when you look through the windows. It's kind of hard to explain. And although this is the warmest room in the house, it doesn't really feel like it's insulated in the floor and the walls. So that's definitely something we're going to have to address. And some of you guys are going to be able to tell that the floor isn't actually treated. It's untreated wood, which means that, yeah, it looks nice, but it's not going to last. So clearly we need to go and protect the floor before it damages. I was thinking of using something like linseed oil so that we could try and retain the color, but I'm not sure. What do you guys think? So as I said before, we bought this house for 1.3 million Swedish kronor, which is the equivalent of blah, blah, blah. And compared to the prices that you can get a house for in Sweden, that's actually a little bit more expensive. Now, I can speak more on this topic if you'd like. I can make a whole video about it. But briefly, I've been living in Sweden since 2019. Media is...
There you go. So he's been living in Sweden since 2019. So maybe that's why he's got a bit of a Swedish twang to his British accent.
Is Swedish, and we've both lived in the south and we've lived in the north of Scandinavia. Finland's not a part of Scandinavia. The northern parts of the Nordic countries. So here's just a real quick overview of why we decided to pay a bit more for a house rather than what you can get a Swedish house for. First, we're further south where the housing prices are going to be a little bit more expensive. I think people underestimate just how long Sweden is. So if you were to travel from Malmö, which is a city in the south of Sweden, and then go all the way up to Haparanda, which is just at the top of the sea bordering Finland, that's an 18.5-hour journey minimum by car. And I also don't think that people really realize just how much more difficult the conditions get the further north you go. So we just wanted to be a bit further south where you still get the amazing 4 seasons, but it doesn't get as harsh. Like, it still gets cold. We had -27 2 days ago and it's been consistently below
Minus 27. Oh my god. Jeez Louise.
Minus 20, but it's way more manageable. Reason 2, hardiness zones. So Media's always dreamed of having a garden, and she's really good at growing stuff. Like, she has so many freaking plants. So zone 4 was as high as she would go. So this should be a kind of consideration for anyone who's looking to become self-sufficient, because the zone that you're in depicts how well you're going to be able to grow crops, and if you go too far...
So zone 4 is is that greenish zone. So they live somewhere around here. Ah, interesting.
North, or if you hit too high of a zone, you'll be limited to what you can grow and the growing periods, I guess. Reason 4, we're not close to any major roads, we can't hear any cars, and it's also not close to any train tracks, which you have to be careful with when you're looking for a house, because we found some pretty perfect, ideal houses, only to find out that they're really super close to train tracks. Again, location, wow. We are evenly situated between Stockholm, Gothenburg, and Oslo, which is really awesome for us. Oh, wow. Also, while we aren't super close to like hospitals and shops and all of those things, it's significantly more accessible than the majority of houses that you're going to find up north, which are going to be super remote, which is both good and bad. On top of this house could be used as a normal house. So it had running water, it had electricity, it had a waste system, so it was just a lot more convenient for us. And finally, I work in tech as a UX designer, so I needed good internet, and somehow this house has fiber. So yeah, that was just the cherry on top. So yeah, they're the reasons that we decided to pay a little bit extra to buy a house that really suited our needs.
Here's our cat. She's really cold too, so she's been wrapped in as many blankets.
What a cute cat. I'm not actually a cat person, I'm more of a dog person, but that's a cute cat.
It's as possible, isn't that right, Gideon? Yo.
And that brings us into the next room, which is the living room. It's quite a big room, actually.
Nice.
I think it's around 2 meters to the ceiling. And on the topic of the ceiling, I'm not actually sure if this is the ceiling of the living room or the floor of the room above. It's just untreated wood. It's weird. But I guess you can tell that we haven't really started properly decorating the room. It's lacking a bit of character, shall we say. We're not really big TV people, we don't watch TV so often, but it does feel like something that would make the living room feel a bit less empty. At the very least, we have a corner of the living room being taken up by Media's knitting hobby. But having a big living room actually makes it pretty difficult to keep warm. Go figure. And we do have another way of keeping ourselves warm in the living room, and that's a spinning bike. I'm not joking. It's not very conventional, but it does work. Of course, you can see that we have a big fireplace in the corner.
So they jump on the spinning wheel to keep themselves warm. I mean, whatever floats your boat. If you don't have heating, go for a jog or spinning bike.
Corner of the living room. But as I said before, the chimneys are broken and they need to be fixed before we can use this as our source of heat.
Okay.
Let's talk about the chimney situation in Swedish houses, because it's important information, of course. And it's also information that's quite easy to gloss over, especially if you're not all that familiar with Sweden and Swedish housing, I guess. So when me and Maria purchased this house right here, we knew already that the chimney wasn't in use, that the house was being used as a summer cabin. And we know this because the previous owner was kind enough to let it be known. As far as I'm aware, this isn't information that...
So that was he says summer's cabin, so does he mean summer's house? So that was someone's summer's house rather than someone's main house. Get it?
Is obligated to be passed on to the new owners of the house. You should be able to see in the property registry the last time that the chimneys were inspected or when they were sooted. So there's at least that. So we thought that it was going to be a simple, clear case of, you know, get the chimney inspected, it will likely pass, then we can get the chimney sooted and go about our merry, warm-blooded lives. That was not the case. We made the mistake of not actually checking the attic space before purchasing the house.
Oh my god, what the fuck did that? This is our chimney.
I guess it wasn't so much a mistake, it was more so that, you know, houses are quite hard to come by. This ticked a lot of our boxes despite the chimney, and we wanted to make a move quickly before someone else snatched up the house. Either way, we had no idea about the big, giant freaking holes, plural, in our chimneys. Now, time isn't all that kind to chimneys that aren't in use. You know, they get filled with debris, birds tend to really like them for some reason, and, you know, eventually structural issues are going to occur. And this is also really important to know. When a chimney is not active and hasn't been used in a number of years, it isn't required to inspect the chimney alongside the rest of the house. So although an inspection was carried out on the house and the results were really good, especially for a house from 1904, the chimneys weren't part of the inspection. From what I've learned, and I hope I'm right, the rules for a fireplace would go something like this. If the fireplace is the primary source of heat for the space, a safety inspection needs to be carried out every 3 years. Now, if a fireplace isn't the primary heat source in the space, a safety inspection only needs to be carried out every 6 years. And in order to determine whether a fireplace is a primary or not a primary heat source in your space, it's basically calculated amongst how much wood it takes in order for you to heat up the space.